You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Next up, I wanted to discuss an article which I thought was just fantastic. It was written by Colleen Kane from the Chicago Tribune, and it wasn't about the latest commit or a big-time transfer portal name. It actually had to do with something probably even more important than that. More important for Illinois football and college football in general. You see, we're still waiting for the final approval on the $2.8 billion House versus NCAA settlement. And the holdup is roster limits. See, if this deal goes through as is, we could be looking at a dramatic reduction in the number of players allowed on D1 rosters, especially in football. And it's already impacting walk-ons, recruiting, and how Bret Bielema is planning for the future. So I want to take a second to just kind of break it down, what this means for Illinois football, what Bret's doing about it, and how we could reshape college sports, at least as we know it. So this is about as basic as I can make it. The House settlement is a massive legal deal, $2.8 billion aimed at compensating current and former college athletes for missed NIL opportunities. In short, it's back pay and future revenue sharing. If approved, it could change the game. Athletes would be able to share in profits moving forward, especially in revenue generating sports like football and, of course, basketball. Sounds good, right? Well, there's one catch, and that's roster limits. To help schools afford these revenue sharing payments, the proposal would cap how many athletes can be on a team, even as it allows for more full scholarships. In football, that cap would be 105 players. Sounds reasonable until you remember that most FBS programs, including Illinois, usually carry anywhere from 115 to 125 players, especially when you count walk-ons. So why is this a big deal for Illinois? At Illinois, Bret Bielema has built a roster that relies on walk-ons, and not just to fill out practices, but to compete, to develop, and to push scholarship guys. And this is not new to Illinois. This is a trait that Bret Bielema has had in all his previous stops as well. And Bret has addressed this directly at the end of spring camp. He said he has two different plans in place right now. Number one, a plan if the NCAA enforces the 105-player cap. And two, and another if the teams are allowed to keep carrying 115 to 120 players. That's not just smart. That's just the reality every coach, not just Bret Bielema, is dealing with right now. And I will give him credit. He said he's trying to be upfront and honest with every player about how, where they stand in each of these scenarios. It's the right way to handle this very complicated situation. Let's go ahead and talk about a real life example here. Nick True, a walk-on tight end from Jacobs High School. Nick said Bielema was upfront with him about the roster cap and what it might mean for the future. But at the time, Nick had already made his decision to enter the portal. He felt like he wasn't getting the opportunities he had earned, and the uncertainty around the roster limits only made things harder. And I believe it was just on Tuesday that Nick committed to Illinois State, hoping for a fresh opportunity. But Nick's not alone. There are walk-ons all across the country who are now being forced to choose between staying in limbo or chasing a clearer opportunity elsewhere. And let me just say this. These aren't throwaway kids. These are hardworking players who contribute in real ways, in practice, on special teams, on scout team, all to make the team better. And now, how many of them are being told, sorry, we just don't have room for you anymore? Not because they did something wrong, but because of a legal settlement designed to fix one injustice and accidentally creating another one. Look, Bret did not sugarcoat this. He literally said recruiting has become a, quote, a blank show. Between NIL, the transfer portal, and now this uncertainty around roster limits, coaches are trying to manage scholarship math with a calculator in one hand and a crystal ball in the other. And Bret brought up something really interesting. He's actually not against the idea of a uniform 105-man roster limit if it's applied equally across college football. His point is, If we're going to reduce roster sizes, fine. But let's make sure it's done in a way that doesn't hurt teams like Illinois who've developed walk-on programs into real depth. Because what you don't want is a system where the big brands are unaffected. They'll just stack their top 85 with blue chip recruits, while developmental programs like Illinois lose the glue guys who hold that locker room together. And it's not just football. Again, this is such a fantastic article. I'll link it in the description. She mentions, look what happened at Grand Canyon University. Their men's volleyball team, which had just made the NCAA semifinals, got cut entirely as part of their plan to opt into the house settlement. Players found out on a Zoom call. No warning, just gone. And this is the fear with non-revenue sports. In a new revenue sharing model, schools will prioritize football and basketball, and the rest could be on the chopping block. That's why this settlement is so complex. You're trying to right one wrong, underpaying athletes, but if it's not implemented carefully, you're going to end up erasing thousands of opportunities for athletes in other sports. And there are other ideas floating around to soften the blow. One is phasing in the 105-man roster limit over several years, not just ripping the Band-Aid off. That would allow current walk-ons and underclassmen to finish their careers without the fear of being cut overnight. Another idea? Practice squads. Just like in the NFL, a separate roster tier of developmental players who still train, still suit up, but don't count towards the 105. It's not perfect, but it could help preserve spots for guys like Nick True. And honestly, it reflects what these players are already doing. Showing up every day, grinding, helping make the team better, even if they're not starters. So what's the takeaway here for Illinois? Well, first of all, I trust Bret Bielema to manage this as well as anyone. The guy's already working two plans. He's communicating clearly. He's valuing relationship. But bigger picture, this is a reminder that college football is changing fast. And Illinois needs to keep adapting, and not just on the field, but off of it. And that means being transparent with players, investing in support staff to manage NIL and roster transitions, and honestly, fighting for the walk-ons, the non-revenue athletes, and the heart of what college football and sports in general used to be about. Because if this new era is really going to work, it has to be about more than just money. It has to still be about opportunity. And that's something that I think Illinois can still stand for if we handle it the right way. I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on this whole house settlement. Again, we're still waiting. No decision has been made yet. But when they do, I promise we'll discuss it right here on Locked On Illini. Thank you for watching that clip from one of our recent shows. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and watch the full episode. It should be right here on this channel. Better yet, if you are a fan of the Illini, make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Illini. I produce content for you daily. That's right, every single day, right here on Locked On Illini. Tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.